So I have a watercolor pad. It's 140-pound watercolor paper. It's relatively inexpensive. I encourage you to use your good paper, though, honestly, so you get to know what the material is like. And I've got the watercolor brushes that are the blend of synthetic and sable hair. So it does have a lot of ability to hold water. If you've got nylon brushes that are basically just white, it just means you're going to go back for more water. They totally work. So even if you're against using animal hair for this, there are substitutes. This one by Escoda, Versatile, totally synthetic. It holds a lot of water. So I recommend that one. And there's another one I can pull out if you're interested. And then I got the India Ink Black Star or Winsor Newton. We've got Speedball back over on the sink. They all work. Just try to use the same one throughout the process. Don't switch them up because the Winsor Newton's very brown. The Black Star's a little more of a neutral black. I think the Speedball is a little bluer. So they're just a little different. So you can see on this one it's a little warmer in tone, just a little bit, a little browner, and you can definitely see it on that one over there. The biggest thing with ink wash is keeping really precise kind of understanding of where your lines are and not getting out into the field, out into the location without knowing what you're going to paint. So I do have a very clear kind of drawing, figured out all the shapes so that I get that, and I don't have to do any guesswork because once the media is moving on the paper, there's not a lot of time to figure out where it's going to go. So we do want a clean drawing, and hopefully that's what you've started to get done over the weekend. This is more than anything about practicing. So it's not essential that these are perfect square boxes or anything, but I have ruled them in with a T-square. And I'm going to use a regular old plate here. Really any old plate should work, but you can totally use your little trays. And I'll just put out a little ink. I'm not going to put out a lot because it'll dry, and it's a little harder to scrub off a big dried up ink spot. Alright, so once we start this, having enough of a puddle mixed up is usually where students need a little more help. So you need a decent amount. You're not going to be able to really tell what color that is without having a little scrap sheet nearby because it's going to pool up, and especially in these little wells that might be in the plastic palette, it is going to contain it, right? So we're not going to be able to see how dark it is or transparent. But the goal here is to keep the bead of water here going. You want water on the surface, and so often it's a hesitation to continue doing that because you think it's going to run away and drip down the page. But as long as you're not tilting this totally vertical, you're going to be okay. I do a little bit of overlap with the previous stroke, but I'm not going back up into this area. If I do that, the amount of liquid that's on the brush is way more than what's on the surface of the paper, and it'll flood out, creating an uneven wash. Once you get down there, though, I've got a paper towel. Just dampen my brush on that and lift it out a little bit. It's going to dry a little bit lighter, so it's important that you don't try to lift that out to match a value that's up here, or it'll dry even brighter. And then let that be. As you start to do a little bit of rendering, we have a tendency to forget where we've just painted and come right up next to that and paint the next stroke, and it's going to bleed out into it. Alright, so you do need a big puddle. I try to have a couple cups of water because one will be dirty water and one will be clean water. So I'll just do that again. The technique is called walking the bead or drawing the bead down the paper. So I want that nice and liquid. When I go to an edge, I'm going to draw it straight down. So I do want you to practice this idea of staying within lines. If your technique ends up becoming a little bit looser, that's fine. This is a painting. It can be a little bit brushier, a little more expressive, if you will, but consistency is usually my suggestion. And you know, I'm not moving like one of those old printers that would go from one side to the other, back and forth. I'm kind of zigzagging back and forth. And I just went out of the edge, but that's okay. It is a painting, not a mechanical drawing. And then again, let that dry. So this is a flat wash. Ideally, it's as consistently flat as you can get it. There's going to be differences between paper. To be sure, this is a little cheaper paper. The grain of the paper may affect how it goes down a little bit. And the sizing that this brand of paper uses on their paper is a little different than the Arches. So these are like 3 different brands here. The washes are all going to look a little different. I do really prefer the Arches. I think the gradients look great. You don't get as much banding in here, and the evenness of that wash is pretty clean. My technique hasn't changed. It's the paper surface that's really the big difference here. When you're done using a brush, dry it off and lay it flat, or lay it upright in a cup. Don't leave it bent on its bristles. You're going to ruin the brush. And these things can last a long time, so keep them clean and safe. Using a little soap afterwards isn't a bad idea either. In terms of the brush as well, keep an eye on the ferrule, which is the metal part, that you don't dip your ink brush way into that ink and get the ink up into the ferrule. This is fine right now, but as you start to maybe draw with a smaller brush, if you wanted to get some line in there, don't dip it all the way in. Leave a little puddle out here in your palette and dip into that, or have a little like a water cap that you can dip some ink into. Don't put it back on, right? All right, so the next one, you got to master that a little bit, and then we want to get into this graded wash or gradient wash. Got a couple examples over there. The goal is for this process to start with a dark moving to light. It's much harder to take a big area and go light, progressively adding more dark. It's much easier to just add water. But I do need a little bit of a puddle. I'm going to add water as I go. The puddle doesn't have to be nearly as big. And as far as using a lot of ink at the beginning, the more ink you have, the harder that bead is to continue. So I will go back a couple times here, even on that first beginning, just to make sure that there's enough on that surface. And then I'm going to add water. Mix and overlap the stroke. Gradients are all individual and unique, so what this gradient looks like should be determined basically on what you might be painting. But for this, I mean, you could take this to a 50% gray, or you can try and get it as bright as you want. The goal being, experiment a little bit. Remember to overlap your strokes. And think about the consistency here. I could start to take water right from the cup if I wanted to, or I can start to just move this over and make a smaller puddle, overlap, because it's much harder to dilute that huge puddle, right? There's a lot there. Rinse out my brush. I'm going to drag the brush across the edge of the cup to get rid of a lot of the water. Mix on the surface a little bit. Again, overlap. Drag it across the cup, get rid of all the water. So how bright you take this is certainly relative. Dry my brush, and you can lift off a little bit more and just let it fade down. So we'll do that one more time. Having a paper towel nearby is good because you're going to spill something, and when you do these gradients, your puddle's going to get huge. You might need to separate it out a little bit. get that bead established. If you let these things sit for too long, you will have a edge form on the irregular mark that you've left behind, so you do have to work with some determination and consistency. You know, if you slow your process down here and then you speed it up, the wash is going to have a different graded effect. I've seen students use eyedroppers and straws to kind of move water from the cup to the palette, but I just like slopping some water from the brush. It is a permanent ink, so don't get it on you, unless you want to ruin those clothes. I'm just going to leave that one a little bit more of a mid-gray. Call that done for those. I am working on an incline. That's important. Gravity is going to pull the bead down the paper. If you're working flat, that's going to change what happens. So you should start to understand what's happening when you do this. So I'm going to do a couple weird little things down here, just relative to smaller shapes that you might be painting in the building or need to do. So if you want a gradient in a smaller area, generally speaking, I put the water on the top, and then I'll introduce a stroke that overlaps, and it's going to like bloom up into it, especially on that first mark because there was a lot more fluid where it first touches. And you can just let it naturally do that, and it might work out fine. But if you need to shape it in any way, rinse your brush out, dry it off, because this is starting to grade downward. This is a damp brush, and you can go back in and literally control the way that's spidered up into it. Don't do it too much, or you will start to manipulate the paper surface a little bit more than you want to, but that's totally fine. The next things, you know, if you find yourself always achieving bands where it looks like your stroke ends, and sometimes this happens with the synthetic brushes because you do have to go back more frequently, is you can literally, let's assume I drew a pencil line in there, and I might just wet the whole shape and then introduce the color in on the top. It's going to just gravitate downwards, but it can be a way to remove those bands if you consistently find yourself having them. Your mixture is being mixed with the water on the surface, so it's going to be a little bit lighter than if I would just take that ink over here. And I just find it's harder to control the edge when that happens. So you do have to keep an eye on what's going on there. This technique is great for the floor though. The floor is very concrete, it's gross, covered in sand, cracks and all that. Once you've gotten that in there, you can come back in with something else and paint into that kind of wet into wet. Just find some variety. You can come back in and lift out things. So this is an experiment process. You could come in and lift this out a bit. It's damp enough that it's still going to soften that edge out. So if you needed a highlight in the floor, they needed to create an I-beam or a reflection, you could come in and kind of do something like that. Rinse your brush out, dampen it over here, and you could still shape that. And you can remove with your brush, just like I'm starting to do there. So if I wanted something else over here, I can lift that out. And because again it's damp, it's going to blur, which is going to help you achieve a difference between what's a tangible object out there and what's reflected in something on the ground. All right, what else? Any of you paint before?
Yeah, I have.
What's the hardest thing? Anything hard?
Blending.
Blending?
Yeah.
With ink or with watercolor? With oil.
Ink and watercolor for me.
So more than anything, the process here is about experimentation, figuring out what do you need to do. What if I lay this flat? I want it to blur out on all sides. How much time do I need to wait before I actually apply what's going on in there? And when to say that's enough and just let it dry. Because there is a point where you're going to manipulate it too much. You're going to keep going back into it. This is drying over here now, and I'm saying maybe I want that to still be a little bit brighter, so I might hit that, but if I let it go too much longer, it's going to be too dry. Or I could come in here and use this to show you what can happen if you do something bad. Just start to introduce more things in there. Figure out what's not going to work. When you see this blur out, it's going to have a very spidery looking effect. Maybe that's what you're going to want, but you need to play with what the surface is going to allow you to do, how it's going to work when it's flat versus how it's grading down the surface. And don't use the final drawing that you're working with to be the one that you practice everything on. Have a sheet that you can do a test of what you want to employ in your piece, and when you know how to do it, you basically call the play out on the final one, and then you're done. This is a permanent surface, so if I wanted to do another wash over top of something, totally okay to do that. If you have a water-soluble ink, don't do this unless you're ready for it to change a little bit. But one of the things that could happen out on location is you need a gradient two different directions. You need it to go from dark to light to dark. So maybe I want it to be brighter in the middle. And so I would start with, well, let's mix a smaller puddle, because I gotta add water to that. You gotta get that bead going though at the top. And I want to go to clear water pretty quick here. But make sure you overlap. Went to clean water from the palette or from the bucket. But I'm not going to just let it stop there because this is actually dirty water. So I got to go to clean water. And I'm just going to literally flood that down so that the edge is way more drawn outward. So now I've done a gradient that goes dark to light to dark, but I've done it in 2 washes. So a general rule is don't try and tackle too much with one wash. Let it dry, come back and do it again from a different direction. But keep your drawing flexible. You're not going to have it anchored to a particular direction the whole time. You're going to do it this way. You're going to work on it this way. So it's key to have your drawing nearby to know what you're trying to do there. What that shape was actually representing, so you're not trying to make it up. So short and sweet. I don't want to go into too much more, but do you all have any questions before you try it? Okay.
So do we have to have non-water soluble ink?
Ideally, yes. And there is permanent ink over on the sink. If it's water soluble, that wash that I did just there can lift off the original wash. It can, especially if you're manipulating the surface a lot. So this allows you to stack it, kind of like multiply layers in Photoshop, or like a drawing when you're laying a wash down of pencil and then another one over top. All right.